Freunde, liebe Freundinnen, is ambition, in English. Yeah. Dear people, I will tell something about experience in Amsterdam about temporary use. And for that I give you a small introduction to Amsterdam history. Amsterdam is one of the things Amsterdam is famous for, maybe I think so, is because of the squatter movement. From start of the 60s we have a strong squatter movement in Amsterdam. And the idea was, our slogan was, vacancy and shortage means squatting. So vacancy, Leerstand, und shortage, so Notwendigkeit von billigen Räumen, Wohnen, Arbeiten, Initiativen. Das zusammen ist die Notwendigkeit, zu besetzen. So that is the necessary background of squatting. So that's why I couple these two things. So, and then the theme of tonight is vacancy management, and I will change that to vacancy attack, because vacancy is not just a natural thing, it's a way of market forces work. That's the reason why things are empty, not because there's no shortage, not because there's no people want to use it, no, it's because of the way economic works, how real estate works. So that's for me, it's important to say as a start that with vacancy you can have management. I'll show some examples from Amsterdam with vacancy management, but my thing is, and you can do it in several ways, it's a thing about vacancy attack. So that's why my background is squatting, and I talk about temporary use. Yes. So it will be a short, fast history of Amsterdam squatting and temporary use. So one of the things of temporary is, of course, that it ends. And with squatting, you have two ways how it goes on. Either you are evicted or it's legalized. In Amsterdam, of the few hundreds buildings which were squatted in the 70s and 80s, maybe more than 1,000. Less than half was legalized and 1.5 was evicted, but still legalization was a big thing. And until now, the urban landscape of Amsterdam is maybe formed with the legalization of these buildings. So at the end of temporary, there's always either the end or it will be permanent. After this period of squatting in the 70s and 80s in Amsterdam, in the 90s, Amsterdam was booming. That means prices rocketed to the level of London and Paris, and that means that in the 90s almost all the squats were evicted. Market forces went on. Amsterdam is one of the most expensive cities of Europe, and that means that, like you see in the pictures, that we have some troubles in fighting. At the end of the 90s, there were hardly any squats left, and also alternative cultural places. And the city of Amsterdam is always very proud of the background of being a tolerant city and being a breeding ground of artists and international creative persons. So at the end of the 90s, after one of the many evictions, we made a kind of open letter to the city council, and to our surprise it was supported by all the museums and all the creative clubs and also the creative commercial firms in the city, that because Amsterdam was so expensive and everything was evicted, that the DNA of Amsterdam, being a tolerant creative city, was in danger. So that means that in 1999 we had some called Crash Club discussion with directors of musea, squatters and people, member of the council, how to continue this Amsterdam, that climate, that creative climate, how to continue that after squatting was gone more or less. So that was the start of what's called broedplaatsbeleid, so broedstättenpolitiek, or the breeding place policy, or art factory policy, you can call it if you want. But that's the official policy of the city of Amsterdam, which started in 2000. And the mayor of Amsterdam, by that time, he is called Schelter Partijn, you see him on the picture. He opened his New Year's speech with the slogan, "No culture without subculture." And that was the the base of the policy of Amsterdam for breeding place. So that started in 2001. After the booming of Amsterdam in the 90s, of course, all these developers, real estate developers, start building offices and expensive housing and more offices and more offices because that was the most profitable. And that means that after 2000, 2002, they stopped, and then they had an incredible lot of vacancy. So far before economic crisis, we had incredible vacancy in Amsterdam because of the red race of these real estate developers. At the moment, there's more than 1.5 million square meters empty in Amsterdam, and that grew from 2002, 2003 until now. So there's incredible emptiness of, especially office building, not of living building, not of houses like in the 70s and 80s. There's hardly any emptiness in houses. At the moment, it's an incredible lot of offices. That means that they are squatted a few times. Like in the opening picture you saw, squatting is forbidden. We had a terrible political climate the last 10 years in Holland. 2 years ago, squatting was forbidden. So in the last 10 years, sometimes these offices were squatted, but most of the time they were filled with what you can call vacancy management bureaus. They start in the 80s at anti-squat bureaus, and they filled empty buildings with 2 or 3 people who lived in it, and because of that you couldn't squat them. That was a legal way for owners, a cheap way to prevent squatting. They developed in the 90s, and after in the last 10 years they changed from anti-squat to vacancy management. And they, at the moment, they have only in Amsterdam more than 10,000 people live in this kind of precarious situation. They have no contract. They can be kicked out every moment, but it's cheap. It's for nothing. And because of shortage of cheap housing, a lot of young people let themselves use anti-squat. And these firms, some biggest, they get European support to expand to other European countries. So now Camelot, which is the biggest one, is also big in London and also big in Paris and in Brussels. And maybe if the political situation in Vienna gives an opening, they will be here too. And they, for the owner, they have that, they keep these buildings used in a small way. That means that anti-vandalism, and there's some people in it, and the heating is still on. And the moment the owner wants to use it for another thing, he has it empty. And well, that's business, anti-squat business now in Holland and in some other countries. And that's what, because I started against this vacancy management, which is the title, because we have a lot of experience with that kind of management, and I think that's not a good way of reusing buildings and reuse temporary use. But it can be also a direction of a little bit using buildings. Then back to the breeding place policy. It started in 2000. The city of Amsterdam, the first 5 years, they organized it by themselves. So they bought empty buildings, and then they made a kind of competition, and the best win, and then a group of artists or creative entrepreneurs could enter a building. It was very top-down, and they had a lot of money. After 2005 they had less money, and now it's more bottom-up. That means initiatives can go to the city with it if they have negotiated an empty building with the owner, and then can use some subsidy. That's the way it works now, and that was for me and some other friends' reason to start Urban Resort in 2006. The other thing was, with this breeding place policy, we could legalize squats. That means in the first 5 years we legalized some 10 squats. They were squatted, and because of this breeding place policy we could use the subsidy and legalize it. The city of Milano just last weekend launched the same kind of policy. There are some 100 city-owned buildings are empty in Milano, and last weekend they say we're going to give them for a few years to initiatives in neighborhoods and from artists. and all the squatted buildings of the city of Milan were part of it. So that's also a way to stimulate bottom-up initiatives. Then new after 2005. So in the first 5 years, it was an answer to squatting, an answer to keep the creative climate in Amsterdam. After 2005, you had all these ideas about creative city, Florida, you said Florida from America. So then it became a kind of economic policy and a kind of city marketing. So until the day of today, it's at the moment Amsterdam is more an instrument for city marketing and economic stimulation than of social policy or cultural policy. But it works. Like in 2007, we started as Urban Resort, and our first building was a huge building of 10,000 square meters. A lot of people from international art economies in Amsterdam stayed in Amsterdam after the study because of this cheap working space. And that got attention of the Spiegel and New York Times that it was possible for international students to stay in Amsterdam and being a cooler städte. The other hand of temporary is that it ends, and that means until now we have some 200,000 square meters realized by the reading place policy, but the most part is rent contracts for 5 years, 7 years, 3 years. That means if it stops now, and the thing is that it will stop next year because of elections and budget cuts, because the city has no money anymore, and if it stops within 10, 12 years, it will almost empty because it's temporary, and if there's no permanent character, like temporary or normal rent contracts, then at the end it will stop. So with the squats, we always try to buy it ourselves. Even we are not a fan of private ownership as a corporation or as a foundation. We bought quite a lot of these buildings, and then you have permanency. Then to temporary use, for us, because if it's handsome, why it's important is because it's cheap, because you can organize it collectively. That's normal. The third thing is you can do it yourself. That means the city and both the owner has to accept that you do it yourself. If it's not do it yourself, you have to invest officially, and then it's too expensive. So for us, it's very important with using temporary buildings that you can go with self-management, so do it yourself. That you can run it yourself. That you are not obliged to have an expensive bureau to do it. And for us, very important is that it's open, that you have functions for the public. That's one of the evaluations of squatting in the 70s. That it was mainly about shortage of living, and if you have a beautiful, cheap housing block, there's no contribution to real city life because it's closed, it's empty, and even when it's cheap, etc. So for us, it's one of the important things of the evaluation of squatting in the 70s and 80s. And now, if we legalize a building, it must have open function, must be having something for the public. Like former film academy, OT 301, it was legalized with the reading place policy, and then after a lot of fighting, also with police and stuff like that, and then 2 years later, from the mayor, they got a cultural pride in Amsterdam. So that's the fast way it can happen in the city. So there are more than 50 buildings realized the last 10 years, and the red dots are permanent, and the green ones, that's gone already. So that's the danger of temporary use. Urban Resort started in 2007 as a missing link between empty buildings and the enormous demand. And we have some 400 or 500 renters. Half is artists, the other half are social initiatives, computer firms, all kinds of craftsmen, etc. At the moment, we have 6 buildings, and next month we open number 7. One we bought, and the other are always rent contracts. For rent contracts in Holland are always temporary. You don't have permanent rent contract for housing you have, but for non-housing you don't have. So as a definition, if you rent a workspace, it's always temporary because there are no permanent contracts. They don't exist in Dutch law. So that means that the normal rent contract is either for 5 or 7 or 3 years. So our buildings are mainly for 5 years, and well, we try to get them permanent. Well, this is the biggest building. This is number 2. Well, I have just 10 minutes. I'm afraid it's already too long. So 2 are former schools, 2 are huge former offices, and this is former school, and that's it.